was our one and only Sharon Abreu. Thank you, Sharon. We asked her to put a song together for us tonight, and it was amazing. We will run that again another time, I'm sure. And right now.
Run, 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 run for office. Tune in here and you'll learn how. Run, 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 run for all of us. You're the one. The time is now. Things have gotten so insane.
All right. So Sharon, thank you. Thank you again for creating that song for us tonight. Welcome to our revolution, Organized to Win Washington. We are doing these town hall series, and tonight we'll be talking about Incorruptibles campaign, training, and running for office. For our endorsement process, I'll be going through that tonight on what it takes to get an endorsement from Our Revolution Washington. And then we'll be talking about how to get the national endorsement. And then after that, Courtney will be speaking about campaign roles. And then we have Amber and Kate kind of going through why I should run. And we have John Culver here tonight to introduce some tools we have. So again, thank you for joining us. We are organizing a political revolution to challenge the power of the plutocrats and prioritize needs of people and our planet. With your support, we are building a national grassroots movement of local groups powerful enough to win progressive issue fights, elect progressive champions, transform our political system, and get big money out of politics. And so, as you know, tonight we are concentrating on candidates and how to run. I'm going to start with how to get Our Revolution Washington's endorsement. We do work across Washington State with our local groups. The first thing to do, and in the description, is a link for our endorsement form. Once we get that filled out, we are immediately notified. And we bring that to the platform committee. But first, we kind of evaluate issues on the platform. So there are certain things that need to be in place for us to really push it forward. You have our candidates need to be champions of universal single-payer healthcare, whether that's at a federal level or a local state level, who understands and will get behind legislation regarding the American Anti-Corruption Act. We'll be getting into that more next Saturday. Election reform, environmental justice, income inequality, ending Citizens United, social justice, all the things. So you can look at the Nationals platform. We align greatly with that. We just bring it down to more of a local or state issues regarding those, or you can look at Bernie's 2020 platform as well and kind of understand where we come from. We were born out of the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign, so we are very much aligned with his platform issues. So we do have an endorsement committee. The committee should objectively evaluate how the candidate aligns with Our Revolution values and the likelihood the candidate has of winning. So we're going to kind of break down what that means. So as we say, the values, they need to align with Our Revolution values. So we assess the candidate using the platform questionnaire. We also will visit the candidate's website and look through all the candidates' social media accounts in order to determine what issues they are strongest and most vocal about. So we don't go off the form alone. We will dig into media platforms and websites and all of that. And if you've held office in the past, we actually go and look how you voted. So we'll take time out and see what issues have come up and what side you were on those issues. And then we will actually conduct virtual interviews. We will take the time out and actually interview each candidate and really delve a bit deeper on how they could really affect change in the race that they're running for. We look at viability. Viability is a win capability. So going by historical voting data, including the voter turnout in previous elections, and we kind of break down from there. It's a good indicator of how an election will result. So the information on previous elections is usually found on Ballotpedia, or we go through our local Secretary of State or city websites and kind of gather that data, what a win number might be. And this information will allow us to judge how much effort a candidate will need to extend and invest in order to win. So that gets broken down. We also look at fundraising. As you guys know, or hopefully will know now, is that we are adamant about getting rid of Citizens United, and we believe that big money in our elections is a big contributing factor to where we are today, just a piece of it. So we will definitely delve into your finances. So one of the things we use is open secrets, but if it's a statewide race or a local race, we look at our PDC, which Public Disclosure Commission, and I think Courtney might be talking about that later, so I'll let her delve into that. Or if it's a federal race, we look at the FEC. So that's Federal Elections Commission. So there we can actually look and find out who is donating to the candidates, whether they are super PACs, regular PACs, millionaires, billionaires, or just the regular everyday people throwing out a few bucks here and there. And then we look to see if the candidate has the ability to raise money to make them competitive without having to compromise their values. So we do need money raised because there are things that are needed in a campaign to succeed, but we don't want any money coming in that could possibly compromise any candidate's values. And it's harder than what people think. And then we go to the membership voting process. So the endorsement process must be democratic nomination. So we will, as an endorsement team, bring recommendations out to the members, and the members are entitled to vote on the endorsements. So we will be emailing all of our members a voting form, and then we'll also be posting that form that people go to on our local and main Facebook groups or any other social media outlets we have, so we can get the most responses as possible. So once we get this kind of going and we know that we're kind of behind somebody, I want to get them know better, we do create events, which you guys have seen out there. So not only we can get to know our candidates or those who are looking for our endorsement, so we can get to know them better, and our members can get to know them better. So as we are quarantined, keep an eye out. You'll see more and more live stream events, or possibly even just membership meetings to get to know the candidates who are looking for endorsement form, and you can ask questions. Definitely open at Q&A. We want to be as knowledgeable as possible before we push for an endorsement. So from our state endorsement to national process is what we're going to talk about now. I want to take a moment real quick, though, and see, are there any questions at this point? Oz, do you see any out there? No? Beautiful. All right. So our endorsement to national process. So first, we do our process. And then us as a group really should deliberate about which candidates to send up to national endorsement. They're not looking for us to send every candidate up for national. We only want to send up the ones that we can absolutely say that we are prepared to run active support for. So again, we're not going to send everyone up there, but as long as we're able to show viability, that we have a team on the ground to help that candidate win, and the bigger the numbers, the better. So if you have a local candidate that you believe should be endorsed by our Revolution, reach out and help us, if we don't have a group already, help us form one for support, and or help us grow when they're even bigger so we can make that difference. After we submit the candidate to National, National sends the candidate another questionnaire. We're looking at trying to cut that process down and just have one form that they could use. And I think we're there. The form that we have in our information in our details should be sufficient. We then present, then they present each candidate to their local political, to their political committee, who makes decisions on the national endorsement. They do further research. They'll actually delve even deeper into a candidate's past and social media. We have found candidates vying for our endorsement in the past who have come out very negatively against Bernie Sanders, and things. And so it does hurt in the future processes. So be wary of what you're putting out there. And then most importantly, what makes a successful national endorsement is they're looking for groups. So again, us as a state group, we can do so much, but really building up our local action groups. So what we can do statewide is phone banking for candidates. So if we build up, when we're asking people to phone bank, we are getting people in line and ready to actually make a big difference for our candidates here in Washington State. Canvassing, that does get more local. We do have people that will travel, but again, the more people we have in our local groups who can canvass, the better it is. Knocking on every single door makes a difference. And then setting up events to give candidates platforms. Again, that is something that we really do enjoy doing. And so we do issue-based platforms, or just even come meet the candidate platform. And there are online things that we are working on to help get those out. On the candidate side, what National is looking for, one more thing that National does look at before I move on to this piece is they will do a background criminal check that we do not do. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so on the candidate side of things, so champion progressive policies. So not just saying you're for something, but champion them. Get out there, get that knowledge and work on making those happen. Have a good sense of your local issues and the terrain of where you are running. Have a plan to win. Every underdog candidate should have some sense of what their path to victory looks like. So go in to it with a winning attitude and figure out how you can win your district. And I just want to say this full process takes a few months. So I know that our local offices, the filing date has not happened yet, but I do know there are candidates out there already running. So get your endorsement form in as soon as possible. If you wait until filing day in May, it's going to be very hard to get much time to get out there and do a lot of work to help you succeed in your race. So fill it out ASAP and we'll get the process going. All right. So we'll see if there's any more questions as those are coming up. I just want to make sure everybody does stay connected with us Monday through Friday. We are meeting at 11 a.m. every day. We call it Community Organizing and Training Meetup. And you can find those links in the description. Every Sunday evening at 7:30, we come together as a statewide group and check in with each other and see who needs what, and help each other out there. And then our Revolution Washington statewide call is the last, or should be the fourth Sunday of every month. This is where we invite some bigger names to come in and we just kind of give a good rally around what Washington is doing. All right, that section is finished. Any questions? Nothing so far, Oz. All right.
Seeing none, I move to adjourn.
Okay, you're in a different meeting now, Courtney.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. That's Sunday night. All right. So we got through our process. Next, we're going to be talking about the Incorruptibles. We have a special guest with us tonight, Anna Callahan. She is the director of the Incorruptibles and has put together an amazing step-by-step process on how to win campaigns and one strategy, how that looks, especially when you're coming in it with like a slate of people. So welcome, Anna. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. It is great to be here.
All right. So can you just update on how the Incorruptibles came to be, and then give a little bit of insight of yourself, because it's amazing what you have been able to do and what you're doing right now. And then you can go into the whole what the Incorruptibles is.
Great. I would love to. So until 2016, I was a software engineer. And then I quit my job to volunteer full-time for the Bernie campaign. After that, I ran a group. I was living in Berkeley, California at the time, and I ran a group called Berkeley for Bernie. We grew to about 300 members by the fall of 2016. Like after the primary was over, we continued to grow. And that fall, we worked really hard to elect a slate of progressives to the Berkeley City Council, plus the mayor of Berkeley. We also passed Measure X1, which was public financing of elections in Berkeley, a really strong public financing legislation. And then I worked particularly hard on getting that passed. And then I was appointed to the two commissions that oversaw the implementation of public financing of elections, the Open Government and Fair Campaign Practices Commissions. So after that, I founded the Incorruptibles, and really this was me and some other Bernie volunteers who got together with the realization that our government was way more broken than we ever thought that it could be. And we decided that the real problem with government is that it was not filled with Bernie Sanders. So we went on a mission to figure out how we could create thousands of Bernie Sanders and fill all levels of government with people like that, which to us meant not just how do you elect progressives, but it meant how do you keep those people progressive for decades after they've been elected. Now, we're on this mission to discover a model for how you can elect slates of progressives and then keep them progressive and in office for decades. And we found a fantastic model, which was really used and proven by a group called the Richmond Progressive Alliance from Richmond, California. I don't know if some people have heard of them. Their story is really an incredible David and Goliath story, where the city of Richmond was essentially owned by Chevron for 100 years. And like many cities that are very, very corrupt, they also had a lot of other problems. So the large oil refinery kept wages low. Every 5 years or so, there would be a spill or an explosion that sent people to the hospital and damaged the environment. Chevron poured money into city politics and even had a desk inside City Hall. Richmond had the second highest homicide rate in the country. And it also had terrible police brutality problems in a city that was predominantly African-American and Latino. Now, in 2003, residents had had enough, and they decided that they were going to form an organization called the Richmond Progressive Alliance. I'll call it the RPA. and they began organizing to elect true progressives to their city council and mayor. By about 10 or 12 years later, they are now the dominant force in city politics. One of their founders became the mayor not long after they started. They continue to maintain a supermajority on the city council to this day. And this is despite fierce opposition from Chevron and other very large corporations. In 2014 alone, Chevron spent over $3 million trying to defeat their candidates. Now, this is a city of 130,000 people. So you could just imagine how far $3 million is going to go in a city of that size. But that election cycle, all three RPA candidates won, and all three Chevron-backed candidates lost. That is how powerful they are. But I love to mention to people that their policy accomplishments are at least as impressive as their electoral accomplishments, because we all know that you elect people and then sometimes a year, 2 years, 5 years later, we're surprised. We don't know why are they not as progressive as we wanted. But in Richmond, they lowered the homicide rate by 75%. They got Chevron to pay over $100 million in new taxes. They passed the first rent control bill in the state of California in 30 years, and they converted their police force entirely. It is now one of the best in the country in terms of community policing. That's just a few of their accomplishments. So they really have cracked both the nut of how do you elect progressives and fill your city council and mayor with progressives, and how do you then keep them progressive and allied with the people. So and by the way, if people want to ask questions at any time, that's totally fine. Just let me know. I will go ahead and talk a little bit about how the RPA model is different from the standard model of electoral organizing. In the standard model, there are 5 steps. So step 1 is get a bunch of people together. OR has done a fantastic job of that, so well done, everyone. Step 2 is to wait until candidates declare that they're running. Step 3, you choose the least bad of those candidates. And then step 4 is to work really hard to get those people elected. That's where almost all of the training in this country happens. Just getting people elected, whether they are great, good, or mediocre. And then step 5 is when after they're elected and they do something you don't like, get mad and start over at step 1. It's not a very effective model of organizing. So the new model is different in a number of ways. One is that you really strategize around taking over an entire electoral body. So when you focus on an electoral body, instead of focusing on one city council member, one state rep, one state senator, your representative in Congress, and maybe a presidential election, even if you won all of those, which most groups don't win all of those, then obviously the president would be different. But if you win one of each of those seats, then you have someone in an electoral body who is not going to be able to pass policy. But when you focus on a single electoral body and you get to a majority or a supermajority, suddenly you can pass whatever policies you want to pass. It's very powerful. The second part is that you're building a coalition. You build a long-lasting coalition with groups in your city that represent the vulnerable and underrepresented people. And that is powerful because our strength is not in money, our strength is in numbers. Building a coalition is the fastest way to reach an electoral majority so that you can win elections. The third way that it's different is that instead of waiting for people to self-select as candidates, when you get mostly wealthy, mostly white, mostly male people who run for office, you cultivate candidates from within this coalition of partners. The fourth way is that you are going to run a slate of candidates on a single platform. And that is very powerful and leads to a lot more electoral wins. And then the final difference is when after you have elected at least one person into office, to deeply support that elected official. So the RPA actually does this to an extreme. They have a certain part of their organization that behaves almost like an adjunct staff to the elected official, meeting with them every week before or every other week before the city council meeting, going over every item on that agenda, reaching out to coalition partners. It's a very deep way of working with your elected officials that keeps them aligned with your organization. So the only other thing that I'll say right now is just that we have had a number of cities, especially in 2019, at the early 2019, here in Massachusetts, we have November 2019 municipal elections, or odd year November municipal elections. And we had a number of cities take the training in early 2019. Two of those cities really ran with it. They took the entire training program with many people in their group, there together discussing all of the aspects of the model and coming up with their own strategy for how to accomplish that in their city. And in two of these cities, they ran slates of candidates on single platforms for both city council and school board, and they won multiple seats on the city council and multiple seats on the school board from their Our Revolution chapters, having taken this Incorruptibles training. So just in 2019, we had a number of cities have some really great success doing this. And I'll stop it there and let anyone ask questions. And Rhonda, do let me know if I forgot anything or left anything out, or if there's anything that I can clarify.
That was beautiful. Thank you very, very much. Anything you see, Oz, regarding questions?
Yeah, we've got one from Justin Baird there on the screen.
Oh, sorry, I can't see with this news set up very well. So from Justin Baird, presently, which region? I can't read that, Oz. Can you read it?
Yeah, I can read it.
Go ahead.
I got it. Oh, okay.
If that's all right. It says, presently, which regions, wide or limited, is this initiative active? So I live in Somerville, Massachusetts, and Somerville took over its city council in 2017. Our nearby cities, Cambridge and Medford, are the ones that I talked about who took the training in 2019 and then won slates of candidates in the 2019 election cycles. We have groups in Oklahoma that have won elections doing this, in Norman, Oklahoma, and we also have a group in Tulsa and a group in Oklahoma City. And then there are a number of groups in California, Northern, Central, and Southern California, who have taken the training, are working with the model. So there are quite a few groups scattered kind of around the country in different pockets. We've trained people from a lot of other places, but I don't have as much feedback from the other places where we've trained people in terms of how active they are using the model.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that was the main one out there. Sharon is asking if there's different training tracks for candidates and campaign managers. And yes, Sharon, we'll be talking about that next. So stay tuned.
I can also answer that a little bit from the Incorruptibles perspective.
Please do.
So the Incorruptibles model is really a model for grassroots groups. So most of our training is for like a citywide Our Revolution chapter to strategize how to take over your city council and mayor. We do have some candidate training. It's not, we didn't recreate standard candidate training because it is very standard and you can get candidate training from many, many different groups and it's pretty much the same everywhere. What we did was we train only in the part of the model, the RPA model that the candidate does. They have a very special role in that model. And you've seen Bernie do this role, right? It's getting groups of people together and hosting what he calls a town hall, right? But it isn't a normal town hall. It's really a group of people who have similar life experiences getting together to tell their own true stories. So in a normal town hall, like the candidate is the expert or the elected official is the expert, and people come up and ask them questions about policy. In Bernie's kind of town hall, and the one that we train people in, the candidate asks questions of the audience. How is this policy affecting your life? Like, you know how Bernie does. He's like, how many people in this room have not gone to the doctor on at least one occasion because of the cost? How many people? And then get personal stories about that. So that's the part of the model that candidates do, and really is the purview of only candidates and elected officials. And so we have training just in that part of the model for candidates. I see another question here. Are we associated with the Progressive Party? So we are not. It's interesting when you really dig into the Richmond Progressive Alliance. It turns out that one of their founders went to high school with Bernie Sanders. And then when you look back at the original way that Bernie sort of took over the city council after he won the mayor, actually, even when he was running, the way that he built a coalition, and then the way that he governed, because the entire city council completely shut him down and wouldn't even allow him to hire like his secretary or pass anything at all. So he had to have like this outside of government shadow government. So he had a strong coalition already before he was elected mayor. But then he used that coalition to run a slate of candidates on a single platform, just the way that the RPA did later. And so a lot of what the RPA did, you can tell that it originally came from what Bernie Sanders did in Burlington in 1981 and 1982.
Excellent. Thank you. Human actually said, connect first, then communicate. Good advice. So that's what you're, in essence, saying. Connect with your community first, then communicate with them. I think that is all of the questions right now. I did want to highlight on the Incorruptibles website, saying that they had on there, incorruptible politicians aren't born, they're made. And that is absolutely true. And this is an essence of what our core values are of our revolution and our group in general. As we do have to make what we need out there for representation. All right. Next up, thank you, Anna, so much for being with us tonight. And the incorruptible strategy is 100% what's needed. And so thank you for informing us. And everybody, please, if you're interested in this, we will be working on it as a group as well in different areas. But go in, check it out, sign up if you're looking to get a group together. And there is step-by-step processes to go through. It's an amazing website, an amazing program. Thank you again, Anna.
Thank you.
All righty. So next in line, we have our very own Courtney Love. Courtney is going to be talking about campaign roles and timelines. And within these roles and timelines, some of the information that Sharon's asking out there will be talked about, but Amber and Kate will bring up some more of that later on in the program. All right, Courtney, all you.
Thank you so much. I will point out that this is not so much candidate training as it is just a campaign structure. So I won't be doing equivalent discussion as Anna on the candidate side of things. But we are here to talk about campaign roles and the timeline that we are looking at this year. So oftentimes we have, as you can see my slide, we have various roles here. I put them in an uncommon order. I put them in the order that I, as a candidate, felt I needed them. And so I'm leading with the treasurer. And what is a treasurer? an angel from heaven, because treasurers are really, they oversee the financial and accounting aspects of the campaign. They monitor contributions, and they are on. They and the candidate are really the only people who have to sign on to anything of significance legally. And a treasurer can be held accountable for mistakes they make, not just the campaign or the organization. So it is a very important role for a campaign in general, and then it is also legally the most impacted role that you can take on a campaign. However, and a shout out to my lovely campaign treasurer. She hasn't agreed to having her name broadcast, so I won't say it, but thank you so much for your work during the campaign we ran. And she was not, to my knowledge, somebody who had training in the financial sphere, but she was a very detail-oriented person who can learn quickly. So what we can do here in Washington, if you're interested in being a treasurer, because you will be the most beloved member of your community in doing so, if you want to be guaranteed a spot on a campaign, be a treasurer. But the PDC has the Washington state government offers PDC training and online. And the link to that is in the discussion below the YouTube video. So that's easy to find. And in fact, they're having one on Tuesday, April 21st. And so you can sign, I put the link to that one specifically in the discussion as well. So please follow up on that. And the first person I had on my campaign was a treasurer, and the two of us pretty much did the rest, and I lost. So don't end with getting just a treasurer, get more. So then the field organizer was the next level that I felt had the most benefit for a grassroots building up and a small campaign. Mine was not small enough, but for a small campaign. And the field director is in charge of making sure that the campaign gets message out and through direct voter contact. So now in larger campaigns, field organizers will have positions under them within their guidance, and we'll come to that in a following slide. But then we've got the campaign manager, which is usually at the top of most lists as to how to build your campaign. But a campaign manager oversees all aspects of the campaign, the hiring of management staff, coordination and implementation of fundraising operations, etc. Really, organizational skills are a must. My notes say level-headed and have good interpersonal skills. So those are also important. And I'd suggest that level-headed be at least what you could do in public. I get fiery, so I make concessions. Then a finance director, or AKA your fundraiser, which is vitally important if you want to get your campaign lit, printed, or send out mailers by chance. They're in charge of the campaign's interaction. I'm sorry, wrong one. Let's see. Okay, sorry. The funder is responsible for raising the money, and will work closely with the campaign manager and the treasurer. So it's all very interconnected. Communication is key, no matter what position you hold. The next is communications, and that's really important. All interactions with the media, they build relationships with the press, communicate with the media, and create copy for the campaign website. So prior experience is great, or somehow an overlapping interest. So these are the roles that I think are vitally important for starting. Everything else is golden and lovely extras to have. So then you've got your campaign role, slide 2. Volunteer coordinator. They are so important. They work closely with the field director to identify and recruit volunteers and to help with various campaign activities. Political director is someone who works specifically with community groups that hopefully they already have existing relationships. I feel like a social person is good at this. You want union access or understanding, seniors, educators, veterans. So they go to the different groups that are already organized within themselves, and they communicate on behalf of the candidate and rally relationships for that candidate and support within those different communities. Scheduler, I can't think of anything that wouldn't have been, just golden to have. But someone to keep a schedule for the candidate, the campaign, a group calendar is so essential. Technology managers, they do the website, database, infrastructure. IT is, I think I'm a smart person and I can learn anything, but I defer all my IT stuff to friends who are passionate about it. And so I have a great value for the people who know how to keep all of that together for me. And so thank you for all the work of those people so much. I'm getting triggered in memories of being a candidate, and I'm getting all gushy. If you are lucky enough to have a campaign large enough to have an office, you'll need an office manager. And they just maintain campaign headquarters, coordinating administrative aspects, managing staff and supplies, everything that needs to be done. Kind of like office mom, except don't mom. No. And then also at an appropriate size campaign, you'll want a legal advisor and a few other. If you're lucky to have a campaign big enough, or a district, a race that you're running that's big enough to have field staff, somebody who's coordinating the get out the vote, someone who's coordinating phone banks, and a canvas director. Those are all positions that are very, very helpful. And a research director, policy director, and a new media director, which I had to look that up. It's so new in campaign practice. I ran last year, and I had a very small. Anyway, but new media director is basically a social media person, and so all of these things in a small race can be combined under 3 or 4 people, including the candidate. But I'd say anything larger than precinct committee officer, you need 4 people on staff. And I think that a city over 10,000 deserves 6. But these are the positions that you're aiming for. Again, I would start with seeking out a treasurer, but you often get the things that come to you. Like, you don't always get what you most need first. So you get someone who's doing social media for you first, great. But as far as impact on the race and on the candidacy, I'd say a treasurer, getting that, making sure you're not going to get in trouble for messing up some filings. The PDC is very straightforward, and the treasurer I had also been a treasurer for a congressional candidate, and so she had worked with the FEC, and she says the PDC, the state level stuff, is very user friendly here in Washington, and it should not be considered a lack of experience should not be considered a deal breaker or a gatekeeper. You can learn it, and it's available through the state very easily. And that's where I'm going to leave the treasurer talk, because I am not a treasurer and I cannot teach treasurer stuff. But we've gone through the basics of a campaign staff. You've gotten a little more than a beginner. Like, there are far more positions on this list than you need to start. So there is no time like now to be building that. Do not wait until filing week to decide to run, like I did and lost. Do start building your team months in advance. Do start requesting endorsement forms. Rhonda was speaking about endorsements earlier. I want to say the endorsement forms come in hard and fast in short time, and be sure to answer your questions in an alternate form, and then cut and paste them into the form you're sending. It allows you time to consider your answers and change them if you need to. Some endorsement forms come through and it's not a document. It's a hit send and it just goes directly to the system, and you can't go back and change it, nor can you make a copy after you've filled it out. So cut and paste your answers when you're doing endorsement forms, catalog them, because some of them you can just reuse, while others you might just have to tweak. And so that's, I do invite Kate Moran, who's here for the next segment, as elected official, to give any insights or values that were contrary or alternate to mine. So just know that you're welcome to engage on the subject as well. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, well, were you going to say something, Kate?
I was actually. I was raising my eyes a little bit when you were talking about cities that were over 10,000. My city currently has about 15,000 people in it, and I think that anything more than 5 people on my campaign would have been too much, but I think it really depends on what type of city your city is. But I definitely agree with you 100% that the finance person, if you don't have that, then you better be really good at keeping up with all of your finance stuff. And I want people to look at that date right there. If you could go back, Oz, to that last slide. So notice that voter pamphlet deadline is right after candidate filing week. So make sure that you get that voters pamphlet information down pat at the same time or earlier than your candidate filing week, because it comes real fast. And the first time that I ran, I was not aware it was needing to be done so quickly. So I think that was part of the reason that I wasn't able to succeed, is because a lot of folks, unfortunately, look at the voters pamphlet more than they actually look at any of the other things.
And thank you for pointing that out, because on my screen of slides, I had only the 3 that I could see regarding campaign roles, and I completely forgot to hit the timeline slide. So thank you for reminding me, and for your feedback on the city size. That number was a little hyperbolic, so thank you for fine tuning and making it more accurate. And so the timeline for Washington this year: filing week, May 11th through the 15th. And as Kate mentioned, the voters pamphlet comes really fast. And you want a good picture for that? I've heard a couple local people say that their bad picture probably cost them their election because they lost by such a narrow margin. And I think that might be a little hyperbolic on their part, but it's worth considering. And then our August 4th primary, ballots drop July 17th. So you'll want to get a lot of voter contact out before ballots drop. So because we're a completely mail-in voting state, you want to make sure that you calculate what's the earliest people will turn their ballot in. You need to talk to them by then. But continue talking to them, because there are plenty of people who don't vote until the last day. And then, of course, our general election is coming on November 3rd with an October 16th ballot drop. And same story, get those contacts before the ballots drop. as best you can. So thank you again. Any
Excellent.
questions?
I did see it here. There is a question. I'm not sure which position Manny was asking about, but can Antifa experience count towards experience for working in one of these positions?
I consider all organizing to be qualifying. How you use your power is how best you. It's on you. If we support anti-fascism, so you're not. We're like, yes, it works. Yeah, so use your power for good, and sounds like you already are.
Excellent.
If I may, Courtney, personally, I feel like it really depends on what your electorate looks like. Over on the east side, if I were to say that I was an organizing member of Antifa, I would probably get no more than 10% of the vote. But that all depends on who your voters are. So always make sure you know who your audience is. That's who this voter pamphlet is going for. That's your audience.
Oh, I don't think the question was about putting Antifa into the voter pamphlet so much as being one of the filling one of the campaign roles.
Oh.
So, but yeah, but you still make a solid point. Know your audience. The right wing dog whistles. The left wing needs to learn how to dog whistle too, because electoral wins are coalition wins, and so. I think that I have a fairly radical heart, and I think I have ways of expressing that for the anti-fascist group that will allow them to say, yes, we agree with her, and then I can take and use different rhetoric to promote the same policy and talk to libertarians and Republicans, and I walk away with them saying, you got my vote. So it is about, like, don't change your policies or your ideals, but how you discuss them might be what changes somebody's mind or sways somebody to you. So knowing how to speak the language of various voters is very important.
And from Sharon Abreu, what's the most cost-effective way of getting your name out there early?
Oh, well, we have pre-COVID answers and we have post-COVID. The pre-COVID answer is door knocking. People's time in the financial electoral world is free. You don't have to report it, and nobody has to file it on their taxes. So it's in traditional campaign times, door knocking is the most effective and it's not just the cheapest way, most affordable way of campaigning. It is also the most effective way of campaigning. So we have to now adjust in this COVID time, and I suggest cultivating relationships with precinct committee officers and encouraging them to develop relationships within their neighborhoods and spread the word on your behalf. I also suggest utilizing whatever phone lists you can get. And if you are a precinct committee officer, you also have access to a lot of your voter phone numbers in your precinct. So use your power for good.
All right, one more from Justin Baird. Courtney, at what point does the position of political director gain roles that report to them for focused interactions with specific groups, marginalized groups, for example?
Let's see. I'm rereading it. Oh, I think Justin knows the answer better than I do on this one. I'd say it's size of your race. But I feel like he's setting me up here, Justin. And I can say it like that because my brother's name is Justin, so I know how to say it. Justin. But I'd say I would have them at any size race if they are if they're available. Say if you've got volunteers from those groups who are engaging with you, like automatically you now have people in that space doing that. It's a team then. But so hopefully your volunteer base brings in you additional bodies to do that work. And you can, each one of these roles probably deserves an assistant, a volunteer team, one or 15 people. Scheduler can probably handle theirs primarily on their own, but even that might need a team. So just cultivate your volunteers and make sure that every job has more than one person helping, and you're already ahead of the game. And you can tell me how wrong I am later, Justin.
Thank you.
Chat.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. I think that it was mainly it for our questions out there. If you guys have any further, please don't hesitate to email us at washingtonberniecrats@gmail.com. So Courtney, thank you for giving us all the information and the teams needed to be successful. We really appreciate it. All right.
As always, it's been a pleasure stumbling over my words in public.
We'll take it. Next up, we have Amber King. Amber King will be bringing in Kate Moran and John Culver. There's a couple different sections here. Why should I run? Where should I look for offices? And then there's some tech and some great things to go through. Amber and Kate and John, thank you all for hanging in for this first hour. And now we're passing it on to you.
Hello, how are we doing? My name's Amber King. I'm your Our Revolution Washington Bernie Kratz secretary, and I just wanted to bring up the fun end of the show tonight with some conversation about running for office. So we've gone through, the reasons and ways in which campaigns can be organized and be incorruptible, and now kind of a little bit more to some of the nuts and bolts out of the actual experiences. Courtney obviously had some great experiences in her campaign that she was able to go through. And I just wanted to talk about, why should I run? And the first thing is, what do you have to offer? Who is elected in your area? Are they representative of you? Is always the first question I ask. Oftentimes I find that not to be the case. And so then it's what openings are there and who's up for office when. And so it's a very long Secretary of State Washington elections candidate offices open for elections website. It is on our rundown links, and I will make sure everybody has a copy for that. There are a ton of offices open this year for elections. So now is the time. Many candidates actually that are running this year, much like our presidential races, have started campaigning in the year prior. So most of the congressional campaigns have their challengers already filed, and then they will actually make that official during that May filing week. So tonight we have Ms. Kate Moran. She is a West Richland City Council member, and she is also the Benton County State Committee person to the Democratic Party of Washington State. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Certainly. So I just thought we could have a little bit of back and forth on talking about your experiences in running for office and how you were able to come across your seats in your offices. I know I've run for PCO a few times and would love to hear your experiences on the east side of the state.
Sure. Well, first, I guess I kind of have to talk about why I decided to run. I decided in 2016, after Bernie said that everybody had to run, that, well, I might as well run for something. What should I run for? I decided I was going to run for city council. It seemed like it was the lowest level that I felt comfortable doing. So I decided to run. And seeing as that was 2016, I had to run in the odd year, which was 2017. One of the things that I really decided I needed to do was I needed to learn what to do in order to run for office. So I went through I think, about 3 or 4 different types of candidate training programs, from things as big as Wellstone all the way down to, I think, what Emerge used to be called. I can't remember, and some other smaller things as well. So the biggest thing that I learned is, first off, don't be afraid to run. I thought I had nothing to offer other than the fact that I'm a veteran and I'm young. But I realized that there are a lot of things that I have to offer that maybe people didn't realize. Like, I have more time to offer to the city. I have the ability to research a lot of these ordinances and laws a little bit more because of my training in the military. So I think my biggest thing is for people, don't be afraid to run. Don't feel like you have nothing to offer, because you do. You being you is enough. Anything more is extra.
That is awesome. Yes, I know when I looked, I had to have that conversation about, I took that same kind of pledge in 2016 after the Sanders campaign ended. And I ran as I had a challenger, and he could have been longstanding incumbent. I have no idea. I had lived in the house that I'd been in for about 3 weeks. And I immediately threw up some social media pages, started posting the things that were important to me, such as nuclear energy and waste and the environment and local policies that I found confusing or were upset about. I know that a lot of them was about the time that there was a lot of waste dumping in Puget Sound. And I was very concerned about that, not only for my children, but of course the environment and, our recreation and this beautiful area we live in. And so it wasn't very hard. I did go out. A lot of being a PCO involves door knocking. It involves, being with your party, going to legislative district meetings, which I found very inviting and a great group of people. And then occasionally going to the county meetings as well. And then, of course, state meetings. I was a Bernie delegate and went to the state committee meetings as well. And I've kind of continued that for the most part. Is there something that you would have done differently in your races through your experience over the years that you could share with people?
I think if I could do anything more, one of the things would be to have more of a social media presence, and definitely to spend more time door knocking. I don't think that there is any amount of door knocking that's enough. You can always do more. I know one city council member for another city nearby that I'm actually friends with, and we talked about how they have wards. This was for Pasco, city of Pasco, and they have wards, which makes it a lot easier for them because they have less amount of doors to go to. I had to go to the entire city in order to knock on all of the doors, so a significant more amount of doors. But I think that definitely door knocking more and being more on social media are things that I learned. Oh, and keeping all of my answers that I did to questionnaires, like Courtney was talking about earlier. That way I could just cut and paste rather than spending all of that time trying to redo my answers.
Yeah, I do find that as one of probably the most challenging aspects of running a campaign is trying to keep up with the endorsements, who's in charge of the process, where are the forms, what are the deadlines, what are the meetings you have to attend in person, and obviously why that either you have to be hyper vigilant with your scheduling or be able to bring in a scheduler, and depending on the size of your campaign, you will or will not be able to do that. What else can you say about your experiences as a state committee person as well?
Well, as a state committee member, you have to be really prepared to pay attention to a very fast-moving process. You also have to be extremely vigilant in your knowledge about Robert's Rules of Order. If you don't know your Robert's Rules of Order, they will steamroll right over you. It is extremely important. It's also very important to have a coalition of people that you can work with. That way you can coordinate on the fly knowing your Roberts rules to make sure, okay, we know this particular thing is coming up. We want this thing to happen. I need you to be up at the mic at this time. I need you to be up at the mic to be right after them in order to speak to it. That way you can get things done. If you don't know your Roberts rules, and if you don't have people to back you up to work with you as a coalition, you will not be successful as a state committee member. That is absolutely 100% for certain.
And can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with the Wellstone Institute? I know last time I'd looked at it, they were very full, and I never actually got the chance to attend in person. But I'd love to hear some of your takeaway moments, as it is kind of the standard training, I would say, for people interested in becoming a candidate.
Well, I've got to tell you, I was a bit starstruck because when I went to my Wellstone training, one of the trainers happened to be Keith Ellison's son. So that was kind of big. I went through at the same time a lot of other people did that happened to win pretty big elections, like Mona Das. I was her seat member or her seatmate for a little while at our table. But the biggest takeaway, I think, from Wellstone is that it is a huge process, and you need to find your voice that you're going to be using for this election so that you can speak to things and have, I think branding isn't the right word, but that's basically what I mean, a type of tone branding, where if you're going to talk about something, it's going to be coming from your heart, but it's going to have a specific meaning for each thing that you say. Also working on making your speeches more narrative. Speak to people's hearts. Because if you speak to issues, people are just going to close off their ears, unless they're folks like us that are policy wonks. But for the most part, people are going to go for emotions.
That's some of our same advice we give for lobbying. So that's great. If you can lobby and speak to an issue, there's a good chance you can be a decent candidate. So what would you say to anybody who might be, just slightly hesitant or unsure about their ability to run a campaign or be involved in this process, or how to pick the right people to be and fill in these roles? Obviously, you'll have people that will automatically volunteer. And how do you make those decisions?
Well, first off, I would say anybody that is considering running, do it. Just do it. Run. What's the worst that can happen? You lose. Oh, well, I did it. I lost. Bernie did it. He lost his first race. I win again, learning the things that I didn't know the first time, and I won. And you can do that too. Another big important thing is to have people that you trust being on your team. Like Courtney was saying, one of the biggest things that you're going to have to trust a lot is the finance person, that person that is going to be filling out, if you're at state level, the PDC. Your PDC reports are extremely, extremely important to fill out. You are legally held responsible for those, as is your financial person that's filling them out. So that's number one important. Number two, find folks that you trust, but also will feel free to tell you when they think you might be going down the wrong path. So folks that can give you constructive criticism without making you feel like crap afterwards. Find a really, really good kitchen cabinet. My kitchen cabinet was basically my finance person, two friends of mine that were able to help me write a lot of the answers to questionnaires. They helped me write my voters pamphlet information. And they also helped me write a lot of my website. And I think the other third thing is finding somebody that can help you with your website and your social media, whether that's the same person or whether that's different people. This is the day and age where we need to be, especially now with the coronavirus pandemic, we have to be more digitally minded. And we need to have folks where if we are not able to post something every single day with a picture or a video, we need to find somebody that is able to do that to our Facebook page and also to a website, and to make sure that they will enhance that website. I'm forgetting the word, but basically to where when people do searches for keywords, your website will pop up near the top of the list. It's like search enhancement or something like that. I'm sure that John Culver will know more about it than I will.
Yes.
Search engine optimization, if I could speak correctly. Yes, thank you, John.
And metadata. Metadata
Yes.
is very important.
Metadata is extremely important. And these are things that I don't know, which is why I needed to have a tech guru that helped me. And it helped a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Speaking of our amazing tech guru, I'd like to bring on Mr. John Culver. If you would like to introduce yourself, give a little history. I know I met you when I was filing for PCO back in 2016, 2017 election, and would love to hear how you're doing today.
Yeah, John Culver. I'm a board member of WABAC Coalition. I do tech stuff. I'm a technologist. Kind of one of the first things that I worked on was this website, File for PCO, which we want to get right into it. You know, we've talked a lot tonight about kind of taking that plunge to run for office. And let me just tell you, folks, if you are thinking about running for office, you should file for PCO. There are 7,000, I think 350 of these seats statewide. Most of them do not go filled. So if you file, there's a fairly decent chance no one will run against you, or you may have to run against maybe one opponent, possibly two in a very competitive precinct, which would be very surprising. Precincts are tiny. There are a few hundred voters. You can go talk to those folks and get to know your neighbors and kind of represent your neighborhood at a local level, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. I can keep moving through slides, or if you have any questions, Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, no, awesome. I have loved your work. I remember when you had the File Palooza back in the day, and I always akin you to the website wizard, because you just keep you are the grandfather of the Burn app and many other amazing pieces of I would say political history starting in Washington State. So thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to hear more about what you've been working on, and how many spots do we have to fill, and how many have we filled so far since you relaunched?
Yeah, so they move precinct boundaries every year. Like I said, we've got, I think, 7,350 to fill with this go round. We file every 2 years. I think we're approaching 100 at this point. We just launched a couple days ago for the 2020 cycle. We have a lot of exciting things. I'll go ahead and talk about it. For this iteration, we built a Facebook Messenger bot. So if you have questions about filing for PCO, or feel like you need a little more information about your precinct, how the filing process goes, all that kind of stuff, you can message the page on Facebook, File for PCO, ask lots of questions. Just kind of going through kind of the important stuff here. Historically, kind of like Amber was talking about, we started this effort in 2016 and recruited, I think, upwards of about 700 candidates to run for this office, which is pretty darn good, and helped reinvigorate the party with more progressive voices, which was very exciting. We want to up that. We feel a lot of energy coming out of this primary, and certainly everyone on the call here believes in Senator Sanders' message and wants to promote that as much as possible. So PCO is a great way to do that. It's a great way to build more progressive energy in the party. You get to elect local leadership. You get to vote to fill vacancies. If you have a state legislature that resigns or moves up or something along those lines, it's the PCOs that get together and tallies that vote. And that's, I don't know, between maybe 60 and 100 people in a room versus a much larger voter pool. So it's a big powerful superpower, I like to say. And you just get to represent your neighborhood. It's just a great way to get to know your community, and a great way to build the bench. A lot of great candidates got their start running for PCO. And we want to build the bench for the long haul for getting a bunch of progressives into office. This is a great place to start, completely free to do. You can sign up on fileforpco.com for a reminder. We've got a little map on there where you can see where everyone has committed to file so far. And we want to fill the map up. So yeah.
That is awesome. Well, and it's especially amazing this year because of our situation and pandemic that people running to
Yeah.
be delegates at the national and local levels will be voted on only by PCOs. And you can file to be an elected PCO. That's your like stronghold. You can also be an appointed PCO and you can adopt it as a PCO coordinator to adopt a precinct outside of where you live. To file for PCO, though, you do need to live in that area, in that neighborhood. But we've pushed PCOs as a very important role inside and outside of the party, as being able to provide mutual aid and connection to your neighborhoods. And we find that role to be the most rewarding, I believe. And there's a lot of people who have been a PCO for a long time that may not be able to physically do the work of walking a precinct. I know some people literally mail envelopes when it's vote, get out the vote time or GOTV, and they actually mail a piece of mail with the information and flyers to every single one of the people on their lists. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. You can also come up with a precinct team. And so you can get a few of your neighbors together and split the job up. So it's not so big of an area if you're unable to, spend a few days a year walking, but you need to, maybe you need to split it up between a few people. There are some great ways to do that. It's also, most blocks or neighborhoods have some kind of neighborhood association or a emergency type, or I've seen ice cream socials and block parties. And so there's a lot of different ways to engage at that level that is very hyper local to your neighborhood. So does anybody have any questions out there? And is everybody hitting the like and share button online? I just want to put a shout out to the people behind the curtain for us tonight. We've got Oz and Franklin helping out. And hope you guys are able to ask some questions of all of us who are here, as well as really consider running for office.
I definitely just want to chime in and say, John, thanks. I completely forgot about going to your website to file for PCO. So I just did that while we were on the phone or while we were on this call. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for using it.
Timbuktu out there, it's not a question, but I have to agree with him. It's too bad there wasn't an app to detect election fraud. John, will you get on that, please?
We'll work on it. We might need some time, lots of coffee and a bunch of interns, but yeah, we will get on that ASAP. Thank you.
That sounds like a very, very, very busy job.
Very, very, very needed. They say it's not who casts the votes, it's who counts the votes, right?
And I like to say how those votes are counted, even if it's a paper ballot. What is the software and proprietary machines that are counting those paper ballots?
Right. That's it. Any questions? Anything else out there? I do want to thank you, Kate and John, as well, for joining us tonight. Kate, again, we love having you on. And John, for your debut, we plan on probably having you back in the future as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, I would like to mention to that last question, I want folks to remember that they are always looking for people to help count the ballots. So if you're interested in making sure that there is no voter fraud and you're concerned that perhaps they aren't counting ballots correctly, they're always looking for ballot counters. So please sign up if you can to be one. I'm not sure how that's going to work during the general this year, but we can only hope that at least some things will be somewhat back to semi-normal. But definitely they are always looking for ballot counters to make sure that there is no fraud going on.
Thank you, Kate. And I think that Oz has something for us as well.
Yeah, I think Kate said it all but it's not just voter fraud. Moreover, it's election fraud. I just want to be clear on that point.
Thank you. That is a very big distinction, election fraud versus voter fraud. All right. So thank you all again for joining us tonight in our town hall. I guess stay connected. Every Monday through Friday, we meet at 11, and you are invited. You can sign up through the link in the description, or go to Facebook and you can find an event. You can sign up through there. Same with the weekly Sunday night meetings. It's at 7:30, except one Sunday, the fourth Sunday of every month, we do have a statewide call, and we try to make that nice and exciting for those to join. Again, make a difference. Sign up to Phone Bank every Thursday evening from 6 to 8. We join Our Revolution National, but we call Washington State. So every Thursday evening, National hosts calls so we can reach out to our own people, check in on them, see how everybody's doing, seeing if they'd like to stay involved, and how. We've got a place for everyone. So please join us. If you've never done a phone bank before, these are absolutely perfect to start on. We meet through Zoom at 6 o'clock, and there is trainings and people are asking questions. It's really wonderful. Then we all leave and make our phone calls, and then at the end we come back together again and talk about our experiences, what went great, what went, what may have had a hiccup. But what we're doing is we're calling Our Revolution people. These are amazing phone calls, and they're so fun. So now's the time to join in, because we do have a lot more we do want to get done here in Washington for all of the candidates and initiatives that are coming up in the future. And then, of course, be informed. We have every Saturday evening, we have our town halls. Next Saturday is all about anti-corruption and election reform. Don't miss out on that. But every Saturday, please go to Uphill Media and subscribe. You will be automatically informed anytime they go live, and it's a great bunch of shows on there. And our live stream productions is Uphill Media. Definitely support Uphill Media for helping us have a voice. And it's not on here, and I apologize, and it will be, sorry, Oz, but Roar Media. Oz is our executive producer for a lot of these shows. Make sure that things are going well, so help keep the lights on for that, please. And then you can support our show. We've got an Act Blue for Our Revolution Washington. It just helps keep us doing what we do. And then don't forget about the rent strike out there. I do see meetings happening all across the country. Tap into that. And I think we're good for tonight. Does anybody want to say thank you and goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, I'd like to say that we're going to be on Rockfin in the not too distant future. So you're going to see Uphill Media on Rockfin with Uphill Media's sister, which is me. I'm the ugly sister of the group, and we're going to be on Rockfin. So that's what we're looking forward to that.
And Courtney?
I move to adjourn.
Anybody second?
I think you're muted. Sorry.
Nobody's in a second? All right, we're on.
I would second, but I just want to say, no matter what, run for something. Run for anything. Just run.
And then fill out our endorsement form.
Yes.
And save your answers. No matter what you do, save your answers somewhere. You'll need them again. You'll want to develop your 2-minute elevator speech. Get some nice photos of you outside doing something you love with your family or your pets, and just make a difference. It's going to take all of us in a lot of different ways that we've never done before.
And join us. It's a lot of candidate cultivation within our group. This is what we learn together to be able to lead together. So we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye.